Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Georgia Justice Project's presentation on how to seal a non-conviction by yourself. My name is Kaya Morton, and I am a legal intern on the criminal records team. Quick disclaimer before we get started. This presentation is not legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship with the Georgia Justice Project. Before jumping into the weeds, let's do a quick overview of record clearing in Georgia. For anyone who has attended any of our First Friday sessions, please feel free to skip the overview. Now, there are two places where your criminal record can show up in Georgia. The first is on an FBI or GCIC background check. These are official government background checks that are based on fingerprint records. The second place your record appears is on private background checks, which rely on court records. True expungement, where your record is completely wiped clean, doesn't exist in Georgia. Law enforcement will always be able to see your criminal record. However, you can keep employers, housing providers, and other third parties from seeing your record. This process involves two steps known as restriction and sealing, corresponding to the two types of background checks. The first step is restriction, which hides your record on official background checks. The second step is sealing, which hides your record on private background checks. You must complete both steps because there's no guarantee which type of background check an employer or housing provider will pull when reviewing your application. So we want to make sure you're in the best position possible to avoid denials by preventing your record from being accessible to the public. As a reminder, this presentation is geared toward non-convictions only. If your disposition or GCIC says one or more of the following: dismissed, no pros, acquitted, pretrial intervention or diversion, county ordinance violation, or successfully completed first offender or conditional discharge, then that's how you know the case was a non-conviction. There's no limit to the number of non-convictions that you can restrict and seal under Georgia law. Please note that restricting and sealing a successfully completed first offender or conditional discharge case is outside the scope of this presentation. If you have this non-conviction on your record, then please contact intake@gjp.org. Now that we've finished the overview information, let's jump right into step one, gathering all the documents you need to complete your motion. I highly encourage you to pause the video and gather the documents in the moment to make the process so much easier at the end. The first thing that you need to get is your GCIC, which is the most important document with key information for your motion. Here's how you can request it. First, you're going to grab your government ID card. Then you're going to go down to your local police department or sheriff's office. But please, only do this if you are sure that you do not have an outstanding warrant. Once you go down to the police department or sheriff's office, you're going to request a GCIC Purpose Code U. This is a personal copy for your eyes only. Do not share with anyone else. And then lastly, you're going to pay the fee, which is usually $25. Now, I'm going to walk you through how to read and understand what's on your GCIC report. This is important because to complete the restriction application and motion to seal, you're going to need to know where to find specific information regarding your case. The first section of your GCIC report is where you'll find your personal information, such as your birth date, place of birth, height, and your hair color. Every time you're placed in handcuffs and fingerprinted for arrest for new charges, failures to appear, and probation or parole warrants, your GCIC shows that as a cycle with the corresponding OTN number to identify that specific arrest event. See here for an example. The OTN number is listed at the very beginning of each cycle, usually right next to or directly above where it says cycle number. On this example, cycle 1. The OTN number is an important number when you're asking for record clearing. The other important information listed in the first portion below the OTN cycle number is the arrest date, which is when law enforcement arrested you, what those officers charged you with at the time of arrest, and whether it was a felony or misdemeanor. The section of the cycle following the arrest information includes the court where your case was prosecuted and the outcome of your case. This is where you'll be looking to see if a case resulted in one of those non-conviction options that we mentioned earlier. You'll see here in this example that this case resulted in a guilty plea, which means the case was a conviction and is outside the scope of this presentation. The last part of the cycle includes the sentence you received in the case. Here it might list a fine, probation, a jail or prison sentence, or even time served. Please note that a time served sentence is not the same as a dismissal. Most of the time, if you received time served or any other sentence in the case, this means the case was a conviction and is outside the scope of this presentation. The very end of your GCIC report just lists all the different law enforcement and court agencies that have ever been involved in your criminal history. Now, the first thing you're going to need to do to figure out which case you want to seal is to take a look at your own GCIC and find the non-convictions. This slide identifies a no pros outcome, which is highlighted in yellow. After you find the non-conviction or non-convictions you want to seal, you need to check to see if it's been restricted or not. If your non-conviction has restrict non-CJ purpose next to it, that means it's been restricted. The next few slides will show some examples of what each type of non-conviction looks like when it's not restricted on your GCIC and what it looks like when it has been restricted on your GCIC. County ordinance violations are entered into the GCIC database differently across the state. This means they may show up differently on your GCIC report. However, a restricted county ordinance violation should have some version of the following language: Local Ordinance Restricted per OCGA 35-337. Please note that if your case says time expired restriction in the disposition, this is not a permanent restriction. You must get the final disposition to see how the case resolved. If the outcome of the case was a non-conviction, then you can follow the presentation for how to get the permanent restriction entered. And here we just have an example of what a time expired restriction looks like on your GCIC. You can only seal your case if it has already been restricted. If your case has not been restricted, then stay tuned for the Restrict Your Non-Conviction section. The second most important document that you need to get is the final disposition for the cases you want to seal. You should call or visit the clerk's office where the case was resolved. Make sure you have your name, date of birth, and arrest date for the case on hand. Certified copies are best. Also, some jurisdictions have records online, but looking online should be your backup option. We highly recommend going in person or calling the clerk's office to ensure you receive the proper document. Final dispositions can look very different, so the next few slides will show some examples of what the final dispositions look like for each type of non-conviction. Final dispositions for county ordinance violations can look very different across the state. If you think you pled to a county ordinance violation, please contact the clerk of court or GJP for clarification. Now, the third type of document that you want to collect are those that show how you have been harmed by the case not being sealed. Good examples would be any job denial letters or printed emails, as well as any housing denial letters or printed emails. The purpose of getting these is to show how the harm you're experiencing in your life outweighs the public's interest in your record being accessible. The last type of document that you need to collect are those that show your accomplishments. Good examples would be diplomas, certificates of achievement, occupational licenses, support letters from therapists, past employers, community members, basically anything that shows how you've grown as a person and changed your life for the better since your non-conviction. This section will cover the ways that you can restrict your non-conviction. If your non-conviction has already been restricted, then feel free to skip ahead to the fill out the motion packet section. The date of your case will determine which method you use to restrict your non-conviction. If your case happened after July 2013, you need to call or go to the clerk's office where your case was prosecuted and ask the clerk to restrict it. If your case happened before July 2013, you need to submit a restriction application to the police department or sheriff's office that arrested you in that case. I'll walk through a sample restriction application in the next 4 slides. Again, the following application is only for arrests that happened before July 2013. You can only include the offenses for one arrest date at a time. So if you have multiple arrest dates where offenses ended in non-convictions that need restriction, you have to fill out a separate restriction application for each arrest date. The application is 3 pages long, but you only fill out the first page entitled Section 1 Applicant Information. The arresting agency, date of arrest, and offenses can all be found on your GCIC. Please do not fill out the second page. This page will be completed by the police department or sheriff's office that arrested you for the case. And again, please do not fill out the third page. This page will be completed by the prosecuting attorney. However, I do want to draw your attention to the red circle on the left side of the page. Once you get the form back, this is where you'll look to see if your request has been approved or denied. We finally made it to the part that you've probably all been waiting for. So here I'm going to walk through the 3 different parts of the motion to seal packet and explain how to fill everything out. Most people download a copy of the packet and type the information directly into the motion, but feel free to write if you don't have access to a computer. With either method, the focus should be on the clarity of your writing. Please note as well that you will need to complete a motion packet for each non-conviction you want sealed. The first section of the packet is the motion to seal. This is the criminal petition that you file with the clerk of court who handled the underlying case. Quick disclaimer, sample motions are provided for reference purposes only and do not create an attorney-client relationship with the Georgia Justice Project. And here's a quick reminder to pull out your GCIC and final dispositions for those non-convictions that we asked you to get at the beginning of the presentation. In between the green lines, you'll find instructions for what type of information to put and where to put it, and it has corresponding number placement. So here you'll see in spot number 1, you're going to find state or superior on your final disposition and write or type it in the first blank space. For spot 2, you're going to find the county where your case happened on your final disposition and write or type it in the second blank space. In the third space, you're going to write your name. write or type your name above where it says defendant. In the fourth space, you're going to find the case number on your final disposition. And lastly, you're going to find the OTN or offender tracking number on your GCIC for space number 5. For paragraph 1, you're going to find the arrest date and the charges in your case on your GCIC. And for paragraph 2, you're going to find the dismissal or no pros date on your final disposition. Now, this is where we get into sharing your narrative. So, in the first half of paragraph 5, you want to explain how you have been harmed by the case not being sealed. You want to be as specific as possible with things like job names and application and denial dates because you want to show that the harm you've been experiencing by not having your case sealed outweighs the public's interest in your record being accessible. So I've typed a quick little sample paragraph for you guys, and I'll just take a second to read it back to you. On August 17, 2022, I applied for a job with Amazon. I went through the application process and was offered a job. But after they ran my background check, they told me they could not hire me. I also applied to FedEx in May of 2023, but I never heard back after submitting the background check information. Stable and good paying jobs do not want to hire me because of my record in this case. The second aspect of your narrative deals with your accomplishments. So, in the second half of paragraph 5, you want to share any accomplishments or positive aspects of your life since the arrest that you think the court should know about. Good examples would be speaking about your diplomas, any certificates that you've gained, how have you advanced your profession, how have you been involved in your community, have you been going to therapy, how have you poured into your cup and developed your wellness, how have you been involved in your family, or have you advanced your religion or your spirituality, etc. So again, I have a sample paragraph that I'll read for you guys. I recently went back to school and graduated with my bachelor's in business administration from Georgia State University in May 2024. I want to have my own cleaning business, so my degree has taught me useful information that I will use to make my dream a reality. I am very involved in my community. I volunteer at the local food kitchen every Sunday, handing out meals to those in need. I am also a team mom for my daughter's soccer team during the school year. My daughter means the world to me, so I love supporting her passions in the team. I sincerely regret my past actions, and I have worked hard to move my life in a positive direction. Please help me continue to move forward with my life by granting my motion. And then here in the wherefore paragraph, you're going to write or type in the county in space 1 and the court in space 2 that you put at the top of your motion. And then lastly, you're going to sign, date, and add your recent contact information to the final page in blue ink. The second section is the proposed order to seal clerk of court records. A proposed order is a sample order for the judge to use to save them from having to create one from scratch. Attaching a proposed order to your motion can make the process faster. So again, in the green lines, you'll see where you put what information, and this will just be the same information that you put at the top of your motion. Same here. The same court and county that you put at the top of your motion will go in the prospective blank spaces. And in blank space 3, you're going to type Mr., Miss, Mrs., and your last name. Here, please do not date or sign the section above where the judge will sign, but you will need to write or type in the same court and county that you put at the top of the motion in spaces 1 and 2, and then you're going to sign your name in blue ink above on the line that says defendant. The last section of the motion packet is the certificate of service. A certificate of service is the document that tells the court you gave the prosecutor a copy of the motion, which is required by law. So again, you're just going to write or type in the same information that you put at the top of your motion. So for this page, specifically for blank space number 1, you're going to fill in the date that you plan to file the motion. If you are unsure when you plan to file, you may leave this blank until the date of filing, but please be careful not to forget. And then for the rest of the spaces, you're going to just fill in the same information that you put at the top of the motion. And then for space 4, you're going to fill in with the method of service. So did you personally deliver it to them? Did you mail it? Did you file it through electronic delivery, etc.? And then here for the final page, you're going to sign, date, and add your same recent contact information in blue ink. Now we finally have made it to the last step in the sealing process, which is to file the motion packet. So you're going to put your motion packet in the following order. On top, you're going to have the motion to seal. Beneath that, you're going to have any supporting documents, so those denials or those diplomas. And then below that, you're going to have the proposed order. And then lastly, you're going to have the certificate of service. So after you have assembled the packet in the proper order, you're going to make an additional 2 copies of the entire packet, including your supporting documents. So in the end, there should be 3 packets total for that specific non-conviction that you're trying to seal. Now you're going to bring the 3 copies of your motion to seal packet to the clerk's office in the court where the case happened, and you're going to ask the clerk to stamp all 3 copies. So with the original copy, you're going to file it with the clerk. For the second copy, you're going to keep this one for yourself. Ask the clerk for the name of the judge where your case will be assigned and write it down on your copy. If the clerk doesn't know, then that's okay, because you can just ask again when you call them back in 2 weeks. For the final copy, you're going to take that to the prosecutor's office, and you can ask the clerk where to find the prosecutor's office if needed. And then once you get to the prosecutor's office, you're going to ask them to stamp the copy and your personal copy. Write down the name of the person in the prosecutor's office who you gave it to, as well as the date and time that you did this. So now we have our 5 next steps. So you're going to wait 2 weeks and then call the clerk of court where the case happened to ask for the name of the judge and the contact information for the judge's chambers where your case has been assigned. We have a sample script for you when you call the clerk. So, dear Ms. Doe, my name is Kaya Morton. On September 15th, 2025, I filed a motion to seal case number 1234. Can I kindly get the judge's name and contact information for the judge's chambers where my case has been assigned? Then once you get that contact information, you're going to call the judge's chambers to ask the judge to ask if the judge has signed your order or if a hearing date has been set. So again, we have another simple script. Dear Ms. Doe, my name is Kaya Morton. On September 15th, 2025, I filed a motion to seal case number 1234. Can you kindly let me know if the judge has signed my order or if a hearing date has been set? So if they tell you that a hearing date has been set, you're going to arrive early to the courthouse, and you're going to bring your copy of the motion packet, including your supporting documents, as well as any witnesses if you have them. Please be prepared to explain in your own words how the case not being sealed is harming you, as well as any other reasons why you believe your case should be sealed. If your motion is granted, Contact the court clerk one final time to confirm that the file has been sealed and that the case is not showing up on the clerk's online database, if one exists. And then please keep a copy of the signed sealing order for your own records. If your motion is denied, then you can file an appeal. The appeal process is outside the scope of this presentation, but we encourage you to speak with an attorney if that is what you would like to do. And know your rights. So, non-convictions that are 7 years or older should not be reported on private background checks. If a background check company is reporting inaccurate information, sealed cases, or non-convictions after 7 years, you have a right to a copy of the report under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Contact the background check company directly to get a copy and dispute it. If you have something else on your record that was not covered here but is causing issues, then please go to www.gjp.org/firstfriday to register for one of our First Friday sessions. Thank you everyone for tuning in to this presentation on how to seal your non-conviction. Please reach out to intake@gjp.org with any questions or concerns. Thank you.